Hello, and welcome to a book bag extra. I'm all dressed in green, and I have my James Joyce book bag ready for Joyce Bloomsday 2004 celebrations, for which I went to in Dublin. It was Bloomsday yesterday, and to celebrate, I went to the Irish Cultural Centre in Hammersmith to see a one-man show around James Joyce's amazing short story, The Dead, the last story in his collection, Dubliners. The writer-performer was Declan Gorman. I have the programme here, and it was a beautiful piece of writing and performing, not just a kind of dramatised one-man version of The Dead, but also the framing device showed how Gorman himself had been inspired by the novella. It begins when he is an exile, in a way, from Ireland, as James Joyce was. He is in Munich and found a copy of Dubliners in the local library, and immediately was moved to tears on reading the opening lines, overwhelmed with nostalgia and longing and feeling for the Irishness that he was missing. And then he goes on to talk about his life, his aspirations to be a writer himself, and then an actor, and then becoming more of a director and a playwright, and coming round full circle. So his story is told alongside the story of The Dead, and why it is giving an idea as to why it is of such canonical importance to Irish writers and Irish people specifically. So it's to the story The Dead, which I've read many times, and you can never get to the bottom of it. It contains so much, it's so profound, and yet it's extremely light, pleasurable, easy to read. There's nothing difficult about it, but it's just its vast import, really. At the end, what is it to be alive? What is it, and what is it not to be alive? And how mysterious the whole affair of living and dying actually is. So it's set at Christmas time. There's a big dinner. The house just about still stands, I gather. The real life house in which the story is set, I gather it is in a parlous state. When I did go to Dublin for these celebrations, there was a dinner there that I went to. It was actually in the House of the Dead, so that was an extraordinary experience. And yeah, I seem to remember it was a bit bare boards and plain walls, but it was still recognisably a beautiful, ghostly Georgian house. It's okay for it to be ghostly, because the whole idea of the story of The Dead, the idea behind the story is what haunts us and what we cannot leave behind. So the central character is Gabriel Conroy, who arrives at his the house of his elderly aunts for their traditional Christmas celebration. And it is indeed a celebration of Irish hospitality and kindness and welcoming in people who need a treat, people who need to be warmed up, people who need companionship. It's a very funny story. There is this wonderfully funny but also poignant character, Freddie Malins, who is, the aunts are a bit worried about him, and they want their nephew Gabriel to keep an eye on him because he's known to be quite drunk. He's pretty drunk when he arrives, and but it's a very affectionate portrait of somebody who is, quite sweet-natured if prone to misbehaving. So the evening wears on, and Gabriel has a few snippy interactions first with Lily the maid, and then with another guest, which is called Miss Ivy. No, Molly Ivers. Molly Ivers is the guest, and they have a brief conversation about Irish nationalism, in which Gabriel sort of doesn't come off all that well. He's a little bit taken aback to be aggressively accosted at his aunt's party. And as the evening carries on, music is tremendously important. There is a singer who seems to be a rather pompous figure, Bartel Darcy, who only can be induced to sing right at the end of the evening when most people have left. And then that is, of course, the moment, the extraordinary moment where we move into the closing pages of the story, and the story within it of the young boy, Michael Fury. And what is quite extraordinary, I think, as the party winds up and Gabriel and Greta go out into the snowy streets, she with her famous galoshes that he insists that she wears, and they take a cab and they go back to the Gresham Hotel. And here we have the true wonder of James Joyce's narration, his supreme delicacy with words, that really Gabriel is thinking that he's looking forward to fantastic sex. Now they are in a fancy hotel. He is well up for it, but his wife Greta, there's something wrong with her. She's not responsive, and we hear the final story, the story of what has upset her so much after listening to Bartel Darcy sing a traditional Irish song. Incidentally, at the ICC, just before we all went in, there was a traditional music session, and it is amazing how many Irish people can just sing beautifully at the drop of a hat. A woman stood up and gave the most amazing rendition of a heart-rending song. They all seem to be heart-rending, really, just before we went in. So this song has taken Greta back to her childhood, and she remembers the poor boy Michael Fury, who died aged only 17. And what I think is so remarkable about the story, the book was published in 1914, and in such sort of beautiful, delicate, graceful language, Joyce gets across the hot lust of the husband, and also the realization that he just cannot force his wife to have sex. He probably would have been at those times within his legal rights, but not only is she just not feeling it, she's actually thinking about a lost love affair, and it is breaking her heart. And this amazing recognition, this wonderful sort of husband and wife feeling, he then goes to the window and looks out at the snow, and there's the celebrated final paragraph where he ponders life and death. Snow is general all over Ireland. Is that the line? It's such a beautiful piece of writing. So back to Declan Gorman, who, as I said, it's a one-man show. He interleaves playing all the parts, playing the aunts, playing the maid, playing Molly Ivers and Greta and Gabriel, just with mime, no props. There's only a chair on stage, but he really brought it beautifully to life, and then interleaving that with the moments in his life where this canonical story has had an amazing impact. And as everybody went out, people were murmuring about the wonderfulness of James Joyce as a writer. There has been a little bit of controversy over the last couple of days over a column in the Times where a columnist is saying it's a good job that students are no longer studying the humanities in the great numbers that they once were. They need to do more practical degrees that will get them to earn money. And there's been a bit of a It's been a bit of a talking point, which is a good thing when a column comes out. You don't necessarily want everybody to agree. You want to start a conversation. But there is something so interesting and so instructive, I think, about the Irish attitude to their great writers, and specifically James Joyce, who is phenomenally difficult, can be phenomenally difficult. And I heard somebody saying, "Oh well, I've struggled with Ulysses. I can't read more than about 3 pages at once." I think many people can relate to that, but there isn't a sense that he is less to be celebrated for his difficulty. There is not a sense that he is elitist and should be got rid of or taken off the curricula. I mean, I don't think so. If anybody knows any better who's actually in Ireland, then let me know. But it seems there is a much more wholehearted celebration of somebody who is truly excellent, truly brilliant, world-class writer, and who is also critical of nationalism. In the story does contain critiques of nationalism, as it contains in a sort of small scale so many other things as well. So it was a wonderful evening in the theatre, very nice music cues. As I've said, the importance of music to the story is huge, and the importance of music to the culture. It's very significant that they have got a visiting tenor, and that people are discussing music throughout the evening. Even Freddie Malins, in his bumbling, inebriated way, has something to say about the importance of music, the importance of festivities, companionship, family, friends, all these good things. And I recently read the short story, the novella, all these, I'm not going to remember it now. Small things like these. That's it. It reminded me a lot of Joyce. Claire Keegan is the author. It reminded me of Joyce in its amazing compression. It was shortlisted for the Booker, and it's absolutely as good as everybody has said. Well, in the tradition of William Trevor, James Joyce, and other great Irish writers. And like The Dead, it summons up through one family a whole community, a whole way of life, a whole nationality. And also, like The Dead, it's a moment in time when things can change, as they obviously did in Dublin with the Easter Rising in 1916. And Keegan's story is a story of the Magdalen laundries, where young girls who had fallen pregnant were taken in and not very well treated. And it's that sort of fulcrum moment where the nation perhaps takes a look at itself and realizes what's being done in its name. So those are a few thoughts about Bloomsday this year. And if you are in London and you do have any interest in Irish literature or culture generally, get down to the ICC, the Irish Cultural Centre in Hammersmith. It's a truly wonderful, welcoming place, and you'll get a great pint of Guinness there. They also have things like Tato's crisps and Irish delicacies, much missed in the diaspora. So go along. There's lots of wonderful events there. Thanks for watching. Bye.